In the world of personal growth, so many of us believe that we need to become a better version of ourselves. But what if we're not actually supposed to become someone new? In the world of self-improvement, personal growth and spiritual growth, we use a lot of language at times around being a better version of oneself, living our best lives, etc., which can send a bit of a message that we have to become someone that we currently already are not. And that can be a bit of a trap, because particularly when we're out comparing ourselves to others that we might believe are more spiritually enlightened or on a path a little bit ahead of us when it comes to personal or spiritual growth, then we think we maybe need to change who we are in order to align more with these others that we believe we need to be more like. And I feel very firmly that that is not the point of personal growth. In fact, I would say it's a little bit the opposite. It's more about remembering who we already are, and more so who we were prior to all the programming coming over the top. And I like to talk about that young version of ourselves. You'll probably find me referencing this on other videos as well, around when we were young. Let's say a 2 or 3-year-old version of yourself before anything drastically had gone wrong. Hopefully, if you've had a good first couple of years of life, nothing disastrous, no great threats to safety, no great issues with your attachment to caregivers, then that young you would have come out in the world being very curious, caring, feeling a desire to connect with other human beings. So this core self, this essence of who we are and who we were, was fully on display in those early years. That we hadn't formed any kind of agendas as far as what we thought we had to do to be safe in the world, and we're just free little beings connecting with life, experiencing the moment. And of course, for the majority of us, it doesn't stay that way, because we get feedback from the world to say that no, it's not safe to be like that, to be everyone's friend, or say everything that we're feeling, or show every emotion, or be curious and engage with every experience. We got wounded, we got hurt. In subtle ways for some. Just might have been disappointments or being told that we kind of got something wrong, and it doesn't necessarily have to have been big traumas that led to some level of hurt. You got to think from a child's perspective, those hurts can seem fairly small and inconsequential, but can be quite significant. I'll give you an example. Let's say as a child you were to go to the supermarket with your parents every weekend to do the shopping, and you asked for some kind of treat. You wanted a toy, or you wanted a chocolate, something like that, and one of your parents said to you, no, you do not get to have that this week. You haven't been good enough. your behavior hasn't been good enough. Or effectively, you haven't been good enough is the message that that young child will hear. Now, that parent has not necessarily done anything drastically wrong there by saying that. They believe the child hasn't behaved themselves very well, maybe haven't cooperated, done what they were asked to do during the week, and that was fair feedback for the child. But in this young age, particularly under 5, 7 and below technically, but certainly under 5, much more impressionable, that child only really hears the message from that experience, if it's repeated over and over again, that I'm not good enough. And an unconscious belief starts to form. If it's repeated enough, or the emotions encoded at that time feel strong enough, and that is where this withdrawal from being our natural, authentic selves can start from. Something as simple and innocent as those sorts of messages. Or a parent correcting the child for getting something wrong might have just been the way they, put their dirty clothes in the basket, or didn't hang their towel up. Same deal. Parent seemed to be doing the right thing, teaching this child, but if it was done too repeatedly, maybe with a bit of a harsh tone that the child was really affected by, this fear that it's not okay to make mistakes, this belief forms, and the personality starts to form on top of that, around these beliefs, trying really hard to be perfect and do things right from that point forward, and it just continues on through teenage years, our childhood and our adolescence. Of course, we're very much powerless, certainly childhood years, where these core beliefs tend to get laid down before beta brain activity comes online, which is only around about the age of 7 and above, which is the more analytical, bigger picture, problem-solving type of thinking that can understand things in a deeper kind of way. It only starts at age 7. It doesn't actually reach its peak till probably pre-puberty, puberty kind of range, where we can actually start to really see the big picture a lot more. So these early years, we're really susceptible, and this is the start of the forgetting. The forgetting just gets layered over and over, little experience moments that we don't realise are even happening when we're young, and our parents generally don't realise, or our caregivers don't necessarily realise are happening, just from little moments. And we're forgetting who and what we really are, which is a human being here to experience life curiously, in the moment, authentically, with excitement, with whatever each individual brings to a situation. It might be with energy, it might be physically, it might be creatively, it might be... Each of us will have our own different ways of naturally operating in the world, but yeah, they tend to get distorted, some suppressed completely by those beliefs and those experiences, taking us away from who and what we really are. Beautiful beings, and our more, I guess, authentic frequency. There is not any other individual in the world the same as you, that has the same way of thinking, feeling, behaving, sensing as you. And your unique frequency, and I kind of have to use that word, frequency. It's like, a radio dial where there's no two people that are on the exact same position on that radio dial as another individual, even if you have an identical twin. Not even then. So that frequency is completely unique to you, and you are here to embody that, here to be that. You're meant to be that. But unfortunately, for a lot of us, we wander away from it. We aren't that. We don't honor that unique frequency or be that unique puzzle piece of humanity that each of us are. The puzzle piece metaphor is a good one because the entire puzzle is not complete without every single piece. Every single piece is supposed to be there. And I guess this is probably a good point to point out the people in the world that you would say or might look at as very dark puzzle pieces that you think shouldn't be a part of humanity or aren't supposed to be there. Even those puzzle pieces are supposed to be there. And one of the functions could simply be to awaken more other puzzle pieces to realize that they don't want to be that, or to push back against that way of being in the world that some people might refer to as being hateful or evil, etc. But even those pieces are meant to be there. And if you're someone watching this video who has been exposed to someone that you consider to be very dark in the way they've treated you, or you've been abused in any kind of way, of course I would never ever justify that is anything but a horrific thing to happen to you. But what you do with that experience, there is choice in that, and there are pathways to find light and love and growth even amongst the darkest of experiences. And who you are never got touched by any of those experiences either. Whatever may have happened to you, that core essence of who you are is untouched. Just like a beautiful blue sky that doesn't change no matter how stormy the weather is. Today where I am, I haven't seen the blue sky at all today. Cloudy, windy, rainy. No sign of any blue sky. Has it gone anywhere? No. Has it been affected by the weather? No. It hasn't been damaged. It hasn't got overwhelmed by the weather. It hasn't tried to shut it down. It's both the backdrop to the weather, the sky's still up there above all of that weather, and I could also say that the sky is the container for the weather, say between just above the Earth's surface and the edge of the Earth's atmosphere is all sky, and has handled and held that weather comfortably. And there's this you that is exactly that, this core self that is undamaged. And that is the remembering that most of us have to go through. The forgetting that that's who we were, who we are, losing connection with that through our programming, through our experiences, through our pain, through trauma potentially, and finding our way back to that essence of who we are. Everyone has the option to find their way back. And there'll be some that never take that option up. But it's available. And I felt called today to say that. To say that there is always pathways to helping you remember your core self, your essence. I consistently mention internal family systems work as an approach that I use a lot with people that I work with. But there are a number of pathways to go within, to heal the wounds, to help those parts of you that are protective to soften up so that I don't have to take you away from that light that is still there. And to live a glorious, thriving life. Not an easy life, because being human is never going to be all easy, but a meaningful life that is one that honors your authentic self, that is always there in the background, waiting to be brought into the foreground and lead you. So no, you do not have to change who you are to be a better person. It is about remembering. And there are pathways to help you to remember. And they all involve the journey in. Nothing out there can offer you that. Nothing external can ever offer you that. It requires inner work, an internal focus. But again, it's not as hard as you might think to work with that. Who you are is worthy, was born worthy. And I hope today that you can, at the very least, remember that.